Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. Today we're talking about what to do when things go wrong.
The Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim Regan and Katie Umland. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2 life.
So
and sometimes it's not even when things go wrong, right? It's just like when things don't go like I planned. I thought I had a plan and then something changed.
Which actually is maybe sometimes worse when you think you have it all figured out.
How about it?
And then you kind of like write it off as
that's a decision. I don't even have to think about that anymore. And then all of a sudden you're like hit out of left field like,
that didn't go.
That's not it. Yeah.
And I don't know if this topic is like because both of our mornings have kind of not gone as
that way.
As Dylan, my 4-year-old, is sitting 3 feet from us.
Yes.
And your phone is sitting about 100 feet.
Yeah, or 100 yards, whatever. Yeah, over where I work out. Yeah. The things that happen. But it's so crazy how you have some of those things in life where you think it's going to go this way, and then all of a sudden things don't. So like some of those things like that come to mind are like you had mentioned, okay, I save for a child's wedding that doesn't get married, or the divorce that happens, or what about an unexpected pregnancy, or, just all the things that I thought life was going to be this way. And now I've got a curveball. And how do we start to deal with those things?
Like, how do my spouse and I
talk about and it's so funny because we were just talking about this when we were working out. One of the guys there, his wife is having a baby like any day. And all the girls at the gym are like, oh, when's your wife due? How's the baby? How's this? And as a guy, I'm like, to be honest, I know for 9 months this has been going on. It was not even on my radar.
Yeah, not until the baby's here.
Yeah.
Is it real?
Well, even then, is it even on my radar, right? And so I think that there's not only do these things happen, but I think there's different ways that different spouses approach it. And so it's like there might not be an answer that's really easy to come up with because these are curveballs, but how do you come together with your spouse when there might be two different viewpoints on how to deal with that?
And I think this is also one of those things that are tough because there isn't necessarily a right or a wrong answer. And so it makes it harder to come to a conclusion. Because it isn't cut and dry or you thought you had a plan and now you don't. And so now it's like you have to like shake your head a little bit and like get the cobwebs out on it.
Shift gears a little bit. Like, what are we doing?
We're going to reapproach this, I guess.
Yeah, well, and especially for like the really big ones, like for example, you have an unexpected pregnancy when you have an adult child who's pretty young still. What's my role and responsibility in that, and how do we support? And what's too much support? What's the right amount of support? And how do we have those conversations,
financial or otherwise?
100%. And it's like looking at that. As a father of 4, there's times when you start thinking like, okay, we've got kind of this critical area where we have to get them through to here when they're launched. But like, what happens when that happens and they're in college still, or, just out of school? How do you help them get launched without bankrupting yourself or letting them get bankrupt too?
And like, especially if you and your spouse have different viewpoints.
Yeah. When I think about that, especially even when you have like a child maybe that launched and then failed to launch, and you're like, because sometimes, and maybe it's just my history with it, but I think sometimes moms can be a little more lenient and say, oh, let them come in, and sometimes dads are a little more, no, they got to figure this out type of thing, and there's a balance there. There's a right approach. When do I show love and grace, and when do I have to show
and how much and for how long? Well, and I think it also makes it trickier, like especially as you do talk about like your kids are older, whether they're like, in their late 20s, early 30s, decided they don't want to get married or just aren't finding somebody to get married to. But then your kids are also that age. So now your other kids' opinions
weigh in a little bit.
Or like you're maybe considering that when you're talking to your spouse.
They have some influence there at least, right? Like, because, and you think about that in our family, the way that we make decisions is we kind of go back to what are the core principles that we're trying to accomplish. And we really use that in like all aspects. So if we think about the kids, we have a handful of core things that we know we're trying to achieve in raising the children. We want them to be better than us. We want them to be fully self-sufficient and the best version of them that they can be, whatever that looks like, so as the kids were growing up, it was things like some of them wanted to do musicals and plays, and so we got in on that. Others were more athletic and wanted to do softball and baseball, and so we got in on that. It's like whatever their version was, that's what it is. We know we want them to be Christian. We know we want those. So we've got like these kind of core principles, and for us, knowing what those are and then being able to reflect back helps us make decisions way easier, even when some of those curveballs start to come in, and you say, okay, well, it's not fun, but we have to make some of those decisions. And so to your point around now you have other kids that are involved. It's kind of like same. Like, I understand you have an opinion. I'm still the dad. I'm still the one that has to make this decision. And we go back to some of those
even
core
if
principles.
it's not just their opinion, but like one answer doesn't apply to all your kids.
100%. Yeah. And it can't. It just can't. And the kids will feel like they got slighted, or like this one got that, or what. And you know what? Tough. You just got it in our family, right? It's like, because if I start worrying about who feels like they got the better, that I'm not making decisions based on what's best in this situation for.
Well, I don't know that you're really known for making decisions based on how others feel. Anyway, feelings just in general.
Not high on the priority list. No. But that's where it's good. Like when you have your spouse who can come in and say, okay, well, I do want to consider their feelings and can soften me a little bit. But then it's like, how do we as a team come together and make those decisions? And luckily for us, the big decisions we've had to make have not been super like catastrophic or super like life altering. So we're okay there, but for some, that's a really big deal. And so how do you and Alex approach that? Like you're thinking, obviously your kids are little now,
right?
You're saving for their future. You think they're going to want to go off to some sort of school. What happens if they don't? Like in your house, do you guys are you like, yes, lottery, we're going to take their college money and go to town, or what?
Well, I think especially because because our kids are so little and school's already so like, who knows what the heck is going to happen with how you pay for school, how much school costs, like,
or should my kid even go to school?
Should they even go? Like, it's so hypothetical, which I think is probably how it is for every generation. But and maybe every generation feels like they're at a turning point there. But that one is especially like, we are having those conversations about like, we're saving as if everything's the same as now, but we're well aware that might be totally different.
May not be, or probably won't be, right?
Yeah, probably won't be the case.
Yeah. Well, especially when that conversation's changing so dramatically right now, where, when Sarah and I were raising our kids, it's like you had to have a college degree. You never thought about not, if you wanted to go into work that was office-y or white collar type of stuff. And for some reason during that time period, everybody thought they had to be a white collar worker. Like,
right.
It makes no sense. Like, it's like that was a better path.
Well, and that's exactly, and now all the trades are
booming, and because they're short on, I don't have young people that are here to do the work.
So like for our kids, it's like, well, who knows how things are gonna
and not to go too liberal on it, or not to go too political on it, but for Sarah and I, we even question sometimes in that college education, many of the viewpoints that are being talked about aren't our same political viewpoints, and they're not our agenda. And so we see our kids go off to school with the foundation of, here's what we think is right and wrong, and what our family kind of stands for, back to those core principles. And then they go into these colleges that aren't teaching those core principles. And you're like, yes, you want them to expand their mind, but also you're like, how far do I want that to be kind of indoctrinated in them? So it's like all of those questions are. And
also, like, I think it depends on what your major is, what your intended profession is. Like engineering, medical, you need to learn.
Yeah, you need to know what you're doing.
You need to know what you're doing. Like, you need to learn in school. I was a business major. Did I really learn? Like, I learned a ton of things.
Yes.
I grew a ton.
Yes.
Was it from my classes?
Maybe not so much.
Yes. But so it's just so interesting, that part of like, but like as a business person, let's say you need to have
a degree to do this.
But it's so funny.
I know. Well, and I think the thing with that is, so then you go down that path, because I think that starts to become some of those forks in the road, right? Where kind of exactly what we're talking about. You think your kids should go to school. but maybe they can't figure out a major, and you're like, okay, well, do I send them to a 4-year school
Right. And
to
hope that
hope
they
that they
figure it
figure it
out.
out? Do I do junior college? And like, that's obviously a very personal decision for Sarah and I. To your point, when we looked at the college experience for our kids, the it's a good launching place because they're going off to live on their own, but they ain't really on their own.
Yeah.
They've got some guardrails and some boundaries, and so for us, it was like that good way to launch. Whether they learned anything in college or not, I don't know,
Yeah.
but it was pretty good for us. But what happens when your kid says, "I don't"? That's not my path.
Right.
Now you've saved all this money for college. Maybe it's trade school, maybe it's not. And so, what do you do with that money? Is that now their money and
Their
you're
money.
like
Yeah.
they have a windfall, or is it your money and you have a windfall?
Yeah.
It's really tough, which is, while there's no way to make that decision and say this is the right decision, part of what we would encourage people to do with financial planning is to make decisions based on what gives you the most flexibility and the most options. So don't put all of your kids' savings in a 529 plan.
Right.
Maybe do some, but don't put it all there. Don't take, these hardline one door, I only can do these things kind of approaches. Do things in a way that gives you flexibility rather than not. As we're talking about colleges and stuff, and I'm watching my 4-year-old nephew trying to figure out if he can pet the dog and get down off the stool.
Stay on the chair mom told him to sit on quietly.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you're having to make those choices when he
Real-
is 4 years
yeah,
old sitting in a chair.
100%.
And it feels so, and the same thing with like weddings and braces. And it's like, you're
Yeah.
planning for the rest of your life.
Well, and that's one thing that I would encourage and we encourage all of our clients and our parents to do, is to do set up the guidelines by which you're going to make the decisions before you get there.
Mhm.
So, for example, in our house, part of those core principles, part of kids being self-sufficient, part of is we want them to feel the pride in contributing to what they're doing,
Right.
the pride in hard work, the pride in, and so for us, anytime like when they bought their cars, they can't go out and buy a car by themselves at 16 with the way cars cost today. But I want them to have skin in the game. So for Sarah and I, the right answer was we pay 80% or 50%, they pay 50%. For college, we pay 80%, they pay 20%.
Mhm.
That was our core principle. And so as we look at that, knowing what those core principles are can help lead to the right decisions for your family long term, but also in the moment, I think, as well. So
It's the same thing with college, weddings, like saving for it, and then that doesn't happen.
yeah, what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
In every scenario, you think you can have plan A, B, and C, and then plan G is
Yep.
what actually
100%. Well, and even like if you use a divorce situation, your kids can get divorced at any point in time, and
you can get divorced
at any point in time. Yeah, no, how about it? And that's a decision you thought was over, right? You thought,
Right.
oh, we're married, we're together forever. But then if you can go back to kind of those core principles that you wanted to raise your family with, let's say your kid is middle aged when they get divorced, they still probably need some support. They
Right.
still probably need you to help them through that. But it's not the same as when they're 10 and they have a problem and
Mhm.
you need to help them. But the same core principles can follow you through. I still want my kid to be self-sufficient. I still want them to be better than me. I still want them to know I love them unconditionally. I still don't want to be Christian. I still, so if I go through that, then all my decisions, if they line up with that, I'm probably starting to make decent decisions, which may mean I have to let my 50-year-old child move back in with me for a little while, maybe.
And I think that's also why, for all of those things, it helps to have somebody like a professional, whether that's a financial planner or a counselor or, somebody on the outside, because you are so tied emotionally to those big events that happen that it's
Yes.
hard to see like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Especially when it is like you think you have it planned and then it doesn't.
Well, and we see that really in a number of different areas. We've talked a little bit about it on the show before. One of them though is like, so part of these we're talking about were like curveballs that you didn't expect. You thought this and then this happened. Well, sometimes not having a plan going into things that you expect to happen can also lead to chaos. So for example, your child has a child. Are you going to be a full-time nanny?
Right.
Are you going to be there every day? if you don't think about those things prior to it, and if you don't think about going back to kind of, hey, here are the core principles that we're trying to achieve, you could find yourself in a place that you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of grandparents who, out of the love of their heart, really wanted to spend time with their grandkids and end up being the full-time nanny. And then 3 or 4 years later, they're like, I'm not grandma or grandpa. I'm more like mom and dad.
Yeah.
I can't go on vacation and travel because I have the kids every single day. We can't. And so it's like, wait a minute, time out. Let's be thoughtful with this before you end up in a position that you don't want to be in. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's there's nothing better than grandkids or nephews.
Or yeah. Or a night away.
Yeah. How about it? How about it? And so for me, like, you can't, going into those decisions, you can't know what they are. You can't know what to expect. You can't know what the curveball is going to be. But if you kind of sit down before any of those things happen and think it through, have a conversation with your spouse that just says, here are the things that are the most important to us and the outcomes we're looking for. Then when you get into those situations, you can revert back. And so if you have a spouse that's being too hardline, like maybe I'm not thinking about feelings enough, Sarah can go back and say, wait a minute, remember, this was part of what we were trying to do. And vice versa. You have a spouse that's being too soft and like, hey, Junior's been here. He's now 40. He hasn't moved out yet. Well, then we can go back to those principles and say, how do we get our family to where we want our family to be?
And I know for Alex and I, especially me, like when we're making those decisions, like we might not be thinking like, hey, if this happens, what's our A, B, and C? But like, okay, if we're going to go down the path of saving for college, let's say, we have to be open to that not looking the same as it does today.
Yep.
So are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Like even just having it being an open statement of like, hey, if it doesn't go to plan, are we okay if it's to still put money towards this?
100%.
If it's not going to look like that.
It's not going to look like that.
At least being on the same page.
And,
as
and like for us, and this is just our family, we, by setting up with some of those boundaries, we're like, for example, we pay 80% of college, kids pay 20%. That doesn't look the same for every kid, right? Because Lily chose to go to a school that's different than where Maddie chose to go to school. The financial package that Lily got looks different than Maddie. And so while we can't say that every kid got to the dollar the same amount of money or any of that stuff, we can say we treated them all the same because that was the protocol we had going in. And what we find a lot of times is when parents don't have kind of those guiding principles or guiding ways that they're going to make decisions, they end up getting themselves into places they don't want to be. They end up with a kid that says, I want to go to Notre Dame. And the parents have no way to finance Notre Dame. They've never had a conversation with the kids about, you might have to take on some of this responsibility yourself. And all of a sudden, mom and dad are forced to make, or they're making decisions that bankrupt their retirement or, and so for us, it's like the key things are, think about how you're going to make decisions before you get into the situation. Have all of your financial planning be flexible enough that if the plan doesn't work, we can pivot and it's not too costly to make that pivot. And then talk to your spouse and try to be on the same page as much as you can, because usually the team comes up with a better outcome than
one individual.
Any individual does. So even in times when you get the curveball that you're not expecting, it's not easy. But to your point, if you have somebody on the outside that can see things slightly different, and if you've gone into it with kind of some preconceived ideas of what's important to us, then you can make decisions easier.
Okay. Go team.
Go team. Go team. Yeah. And so all of that started because you and Alex had your first night away over the weekend.
Since the babies were born. Yeah.
And there was a little bit of
everybody was feeling like they just missed each other after this weekend.
Some
of
separation
being away,
anxiety.
So we have some visitors
place.
with us.
Yeah. And so that was your morning kind of thrown off a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we said, I'm at the gym and work out and decide I'm going to leave my phone sitting next to the cold plunge.
Which is like so sad how much that impacts you.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like you feel like helpless.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to
go
through the day without my phone?
Well, and we were just talking about that over the weekend even. Because now like Grace came home over the weekend, stopped at home like for a minute so mom could do her laundry, and then proceeded on to Iowa to visit friends at their school. And Sarah and I are like, okay, let us know when you leave. Then Sarah's calling her like, how's the drive going? Or, because she's by herself type of deal. And I'm like, we left in the morning, showed up sometime later, and like nobody could know where you were or what you're doing
for a whole weekend.
Yeah.
Like when you guys would like you and
when
Dan
me
would
and Dan
go away for work.
Skeet refereeing and stuff. Yeah. We've gone all weekend. Not one communication with mom or dad.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And now people have, like Life 360 and, Find My iPhone stuff, and they're tracking what the kids are up to.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is for that.
Really, to be honest, I kind of think, because I think that's kind of one of those curveball things too, where I think you get into it and you're thinking that you're doing the right thing, staying on top of your kids, helping them. But I think that it makes kids less willing to take risk. It makes kids
makes them more nervous.
Yeah. It makes them puts them in a place where they, like, even Madeline, like when we got new phones, she wanted us to have the Find iPhone on there. She's like, what if something happens? I want you to be able, like, there's something to that independence,
the
get out
confidence
there. And she's an independent person. She lives on her own down in New Orleans. Like, she's an independent person, but yet there's something to like being able to go out and come back when the streetlights come on, and just
knowing you can handle it and figure it out as you go.
Yeah. And there's some of those bad decisions you make that help you to like become the person that you are. And
I think that's an interesting time. And I feel like maybe between our kids had it the toughest. Like I feel like in between our kids, they were so heavily helicoptered by their parents. And now people are starting to like pull back again on like, oh, maybe we don't need to be so like give them a little bit of space.
Yeah.
For when my kids get a little older, I think it's starting to like, you don't have to have your eyes on them
24/7.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And so you are starting to live your 2 life a little bit. You and Alex decided that next winter you're going to disappear for a
month heading down south Florida for the month. And Alex can work from home. So we thought this is kind of our last chance while Dylan's still in preschool to let him really work remotely.
Yeah, which is a shameless plug for the book, Live Your 2 Life, right? Like people should go out and check it out.
Now's the time.
Shatter your fishbowl. Fishbowls are being shattered. And like for you guys, it's a really cool thing because for Sarah and I, our picture was that we were going to kind of do that when we got kids out of the house. And so we're starting down that path. But for you and Alex to be able to do it and say, hey, we have the flexibility that we can go do this now is pretty cool.
It definitely is a shatter your fishbowl. And I have to like keep shattering it until we get there because I'm definitely like, I mean, it's way easier to do this without kids.
Sure.
Like for you guys.
Yep.
And it still is probably has its tough moments of like, ooh, being gone for that long.
Yeah.
But with kids, I was like, okay, we're just going to have to do it.
Yep.
Commit to it and do it because there's a lot of things that could.
But it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, and to think about, like, when you think about that process, though, first of all, like one of the things Sarah and I always have to tell ourselves, they have Target and Walmart in Florida, just like they have that here, right? And so
I can still get the groceries delivered.
Yeah.
I can still.
Well, and you don't have to be like, oh, shoot, I forgot. Fill in the blank.
Honestly, I feel like being gone for a month makes that almost easier.
Yep.
A week, I'm not going to go out and buy something that I forgot. I'm going to live a week without it.
Yep.
But for a month, it's like, well, I'm going to go buy that.
Go get it. Yeah.
And then we can kind of settle in and so.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I am too.
It's exciting stuff.
I am too.
Yeah.
Kids are home for breaks and then
home gone, all that stuff. I think this year this will probably air about Easter time. And if it is, we're going to celebrate Easter in NOLA with Maddie. So
it's awesome.
That'll be fun. Yeah. First time doing that.
And everybody's going.
Yeah. We'll fly them all down and do that deal. It's kind of fun because it's fun to see the kids at this age still get along, still want to be together, still do that stuff. Because like they're all talking about wanting to bunk up in Maddie's. Maddie has like, they call it a 2-bedroom house, but it's really like
a bedroom and a closet.
It seems like, and only one shower. And like you realize we've got Lily and Andrew, Maddie and Matthew, Tim and Grace, all wanting to bunk up.
It's
like,
sweet. All right, have fun.
Have fun. Yeah.
So we will be at the hotel.
Yes. That's how Sarah and I roll. We're not really bunk up with other folk kind of people.
No.
So
All right.
All right. Well, let's.
I'm
land
glad
this
we
plane.
were able to get our stuff together enough to be here today.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and
Wheels kind of on.
And I do think that, like, while we didn't really come with here's the answer to some of these problems, I do think that if people just take the time, think about what are we trying to accomplish, what are our core principles in doing this, you can help to lead through some of those curveballs that life throws you, because they're all going to come, and get some outside perspective on it.
I don't know if this is because I'm a girl, like if it's a girl guy thing, but I think it's comforting to hear when other people are going through the same problems you have. You often think like, oh man, I did this wrong, or I wasn't planning for this, but like everybody has those.
Well, and like the thing to always remember is, especially now, everybody has their stuff. There is some stuff in everybody's life.
Yeah.
There
might look a little bit different, but
and it's so easy. Like people talk about, how much when you look at socials, everybody puts like their highlight reel on socials. Everybody has their stuff. Being in the seat that I'm in, I see everybody's stuff. We talk about everybody's stuff. Even the places, the families that you're like, man, they are tight, and they are. Like there's some that are like, man, it really looks like they got together. They may have it slightly more together. They may,
or in different areas than you do,
but they have their stuff.
Yeah,
everybody has their stuff,
and like the stuff they don't have together might be the stuff you do, and so it just looks different.
Yeah. So don't ever feel like, oh, I shouldn't, or I couldn't tell this guy or my financial advisor that, or I shouldn't talk. No,
right.
Everybody has their stuff. There's no way that you could ever judge. In church this Sunday, one of the things Pastor talked about was in his sermon was talking about like love thy neighbor, right? Your neighbor. It doesn't say the one that's just like you, the one that's just this. Right. And what he talked about was, it says, don't point out the log in somebody else's eye, or the speck when you've got a log in your own eye. And he was like, use that log to build a bridge, not build a wall. And it's the same thing. Like, I think it kind of goes with that same conversation around everybody has their stuff. Reach out, use your support, like talk to people, to your point, Katie, like knowing that other people are going through it. Take the log out of your eye and start building the bridge so you can support somebody and they can support you too as you're going through it.
Yeah. I just saw that, in like, speaking of socials and stuff, everything's curated. Everything is like for the last 5-7 years has been like only show perfection, only put a filter on that picture. Yeah. And it's starting to come like full circle again. Yep. And like people are craving that, like,
yeah. Well, that's why in this, like, I tell them to add 10 pounds with
the
camera.
You just want to become really approachable.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes. Instead of the Adonis that I usually am, I just
the totally unfinished version of this podcast is on purpose.
On purpose. Totally on purpose.
It's not polished on purpose.
Yes.
All right. For real polished resources, head to pv-wp.com.
Be well.
The Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim Regan and Katie Umland. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2 Comma life. Learn more at pv-wp.com. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Retirement Readiness Podcast on your preferred podcast platform.